If we stand together, we'll never fall. We can make a difference and answer the call.
Well, hi there, and welcome back to another episode of the All Around Growth Podcast, where we talk about a variety of topics intended to provide insight and tools to build the life and homestead of our dreams. And today, some of those topics include flea beetles, vegetable container gardening, and dandelion recipes. And much of this comes from the Old Farmers Almanac, and I will link to that in the show notes all the way at the bottom. You will see a section dedicated to discussion links. And if you click on the date, you will find a link to the Old Farmers Almanac, where on today, or the link there, you can learn who was born on this day, what happened today in history, and fun facts like there are 61 days until summer begins. There's questions of the day like, if light travels the speed of light because it has no mass, then why do they say that light cannot escape a black hole because of the gravity? There's actually answers to that question, along with puzzles of the day like, what do you get if you cross a sheepdog with a rose? Little bits of poetry from John Updike and others. And today we read, the shadows have their seasons too. The feathery web, the budding maples cast down the sullen lawn, bears but a faint relation to high summers. Umbrageous weight and tunnel-like continuum. John Updike, who lived from 1932 to 2009, includes words that even I have trouble pronouncing. And that says a lot, because I like to think that I can read and write in at a little bit higher level than the common everyday modern human. And the fact that I am struggling with this leads me to believe that even I have work to do. We all have work to do as we continue growing, learning, and moving forward in life. So like I said, you can read about flea beetles, container gardening, growing vegetables in pots, dandelion recipes. And for those of you who don't know, the dandelion is a wonderful edible weed. There is also articles on spring cleaning. Spring cleaning the garden, that is. Taking a look at which plants survived, and there's also an article on how to find a good roofer. And if you're in Medina, all you need to do is hit me up. I know several, and I can point you in the right direction. So we're going to look at this article during the ride, look at the bullet points: container gardening, growing vegetables in pots. And I'll explain why as I get to the side roads here in a second. I recently wrote an article let me check my pocket. I hope I have my earbuds. Yep, I sure do. I recently wrote an article for Men of Order, and that article was titled, what the hell was the title of the article that I wrote? How to make a Hugelkultur Raised Gardening Bed. And there's a lot of confusion about what hugelkultur is. There's a lot of confusion about the benefits of raised gardening beds. There's a lot of confusion about gardening in the first place. And also there seems to be a growing interest in it for various reasons. And that is not my place right now to say what those reasons are. But in the same note, this article from the Old Farmers Almanac covers container gardening, growing vegetables in pots. And, subtitle, Learn How to Grow More Vegetables in Less Space. This is an article by Robin Sweetser that was published on April 11th, 2022. I'll link to this directly in the show notes for ease of reference and ease of reading. Everything else that I mentioned, if that is of interest, all you need to do is go to the show notes, scroll all the way down to the discussion links, and to click on the date. That'll bring you to the Old Farmers Almanac link for today. Now, a lot of people are into container gardening, and I even have some friends that grow for market, growing inside their high tunnels almost exclusively in containers. Now, I say friends, I mean, it's not like we're super tight buddies. They're more like acquaintances. Now, Cody, who I would consider a friend, he is in the ground with just about everything except some fig trees, just fun stuff that isn't saleable for market. Cody is a soil grower, and technically most of the mixes in containers would be considered a soilless mix, right? Like, say your Pro Mix or whatever you're using for container stuff. That is a soilless mix. It is a, bark, perlite, vermiculite, all different types of things. But I'm sort of just going in my own direction here. I haven't even looked at this article, so here's why you should try container gardening. Okay. Now, like I said, I drive. I can't really look at a whole lot and read these articles while I'm driving, but there's also Container Gardening 101, where to put a container garden, notes on maximizing your veggie harvest, and just common things about full sun. And a lot of this is going to depend, guys. Yes, you want full sun for a lot of things. Now, in the chat group, t.me/allaroundgrowth, we've actually had a lot of dialogue about what you can do with a 20-foot long cattle panel and how you can compress those and make an arch and grow some things that would grow up on that panel that would then serve as a trellis, providing shade for other things. You don't want blazing sun in your garden all day for all the things. It just doesn't work that way. It works that way for a lot of the things, but it doesn't work that way for all of the things. Having some shade and having a trellis, or having your garden near some shade or near a tree line, that can actually be a good thing sometimes. So, take everything you learn and read with the grain of salt. Apply what's relevant to you in your own specific context, and discard the rest or ignore the rest. But ultimately, get out there and do something. And I think container gardening is a great way to get started and do something, even if you have no experience doing anything. Right now, it's still mid-April. It's still relatively early for most of us in the United States. There's still plenty of time to go out, get a container. Doesn't even need to be a fancy container. I've talked with some other people in other groups, specifically the survival podcast groups and some of these subgroups on Telegram and Discord, and they are doing larger scale container growing by taking these food grade 55-gallon, maybe they're not quite that big. Maybe they're like these 35 or 40-gallon drums, but these blue containers, and then cutting them in half. And he's doing it, like as though they were stacked vertically, and then cutting them in half that way to get two little barrels, so to speak. But I could also see cutting them in half the other way, because those would also have some. Anyways, all kinds of ways to do container gardening, and container gardening, much like this article that I wrote about, gives you the freedom to not have to, overcome the limitations of the soil that you currently have on site, which could be terrible, or it could be none. If you have a very small space, or hell, you even live in an apartment, or just have a small balcony. Maybe you can only have space for a few containers. That's fine. Work with what you have. And if you can't grow all the food like you want to, then take advantage of the opportunity that your life is in and network with the people who do. Attend events that they put on. Support the people who actually are doing all the things that you want to do, and cultivate a relationship with them, because I'm of the opinion that those relationships that we cultivate are even more important than the actual actions that we take and the food that we grow, right? There are always, how do I say this? The people that are growing the food and the people that are doing the things need people in the community to support them, because oftentimes their primary focus is on the work that they do. And there is a good role and a good space for those who want to serve as a medium, as a vector, as a vector to a channel, if you will, between the producer and the consumer. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to be that, and in one way, along with many other things, and that's going to be an interesting thing to see how that idea factors into everything else over the next year and a half, as I continue the exit strategy that was discussed last night in the Unloose the Goose after party, which I was so grateful to be a part of. I'll see if I can link to that in the show notes as well. But for today, guys, that is it on the Old Farmers Almanac. Like I said, check out the show notes for links to everything and more. And for one final snapshot of what we've got, that is articles on flea beetles, vegetable container gardening, dandelion recipes, and more. So thank you for tuning in today. If you want to be a part of the growing community that is on Telegram, you can find us at t.me/allaroundgrowth, along with all the other places on social media. Check out the show notes to find links to all of that and more. This is Rob Kaiser, and thank you.
The needs are many and answers a few. People turn away, and I wonder why. If I can help somebody, then I want to try. People may think that it's all that every day, and we can help somebody along the way. People may think that it's odd that I believe in friendship and love. Truth is always the best way to the world that may seem odd. I'm an odd fellow. You're an